Well, we have so much to do. It's already a minute after. Guys, this is going to be a good one. I know that, I see Bill Panabianco on here too. Hey, Bill, go Vols in Chattanooga, coming to us live here. Let's go ahead and get this party started if you're ready, Alan, and we'll get our business out of the way, as they say. And let me share my screen so we can get those slides going. So today, of course, is all about becoming a rock star sales leader. And I am so excited to have Alan Beulah, who is a rock star sales leader, join us. And you've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a few times maybe. So let's go ahead and we'll get our introductions out of the way. For those of you who don't know me, and I'd say most of you probably do, I am Kimberly Mackey. My company is New Home Solutions Consulting, and I am I'm a sales and marketing management consultant with the emphasis on the management, which differentiates me. A lot of people think of me as a sales trainer, and I am, because I love sales training. I do get into it. But in my day-to-day world, what I do is I go in and I work with builders and I help them to build their business, to make sure that they have their systems and everything in place to support that sales process. So sales is the engine that drives the train rather than running it off the tracks. So if you need any help with anything like that, this is how you can contact me. But enough about me, Alan. These people join because they want to hear about you. So let's tell them a little bit about your story.
Fair enough, Kimberly. Thank you very much for, first of all, having me. Well, I started my real estate career in general brokerage. I'm going to date myself. That's why I cut off my beard in the late 80s, and stumbled into new home sales, and have been in new home sales for probably a little bit over 3 decades. Enjoy it. It's my passion. And I guess kind of your topic as far as being a sales leader is something that I just strive to do on a day-to-day basis. And this is a great industry, and it's open to a lot of people, but I don't think a lot of people think about, growing up and being in the new home sales. So let's see if we can encourage some people to get into sales leadership.
That's the point. That's what we're trying to do today. And it's not as scary as it thinks, as people think it is. So, but it does involve juggling a lot of balls sometimes. So I would be remiss if I did not talk about my new program that I have coming up. So I'm super excited to talk to you about the Lead from the Side Academy. The website is not even up on this thing yet. And so far, I've already got a list going of people who are excited to join. The Lead from the Side Academy is going to be a mastermind group, unlike any other mastermind group. Small groups of 5 or 6. I'll only run a couple.
Kimberly.
I think I'm back.
Welcome back.
Oh my goodness.
I got ready to have to go and do the whole thing on my own. I was giving you a few more seconds.
Unbelievable. They said to send me a code to log back in. It's like I just got completely booted out of Zoom. I don't know what's happening.
It's my fault, because when I left Charlotte in January '06 down to Fort Myers, Florida, the bubble burst as I'm driving across the state line. So this was on me. I'll take this.
It's on you. All right. Well, I'm so sorry, everybody. I have no idea what just happened there. So unbelievable. So here's where I was talking about the Lead from the Side Academy. I won't belabor the point here, but I will let you know that if you want any information, you want to be on the first, because I've already got almost 2 groups filled up. But if you want information about this, info@newhomesolutions.com. So let's talk about, Alan, let's talk about sales leadership and certain styles that we tend to see when it comes to sales managers. So the first one is, I don't always fly, but when I do, it's by the seat of my pants. So we've all known sales managers like that are constantly in reaction mode, right, Alan?
Yeah, we do. Yes, indeed.
So, it's like you'll never get ahead if you are while this type of industry and this type of position does require a bit of ebb and flow, you still have to have a plan.
Yeah.
So, and if you don't have one, then you need to get one. And then we have the other type of sales manager who's like, you get a plan and you get a plan and everybody has their own individual plan and we're planning and planning and planning and maybe not quite getting things done. So somewhere there's got to be some happy medium, right? So my favorite thing about being in sales management is if you are too busy, you are too busy. Because it's so easy to just get sucked into the administrivia
Yes.
and get sucked into having to fix. Sales managers are typically fixers. So they want to fix everything. So we definitely don't want to fix everything all the time. That is not going to help you out a whole lot. So no more slides. Without further ado, it's the two of us and our group. And I guess, guys, I don't know what's going on with the chat, but we do have Q&A open. So for some reason, it's the opposite today. So Q&A all you want, and I will monitor that. But I'm going to start with a tough question.
Okay.
So, Alan, what do you think is the difference between a sales leader and a sales manager?
Okay. Yeah, I'll take the sales manager first. To me, sales manager is just a title. That's it. Okay. And I think people fall into, okay, I'm the sales manager. Well, you really want to strive to be a sales leader because I really liken it to being a coach. Okay. You're looking for talent. You're looking for how you can take these individuals that are on your team and get the most out of them, understanding that they're all different personalities. They all have different hot buttons, and understanding what drives somebody to want to get to that next level. What if you say something is going to make them revert and go backwards, because you always want to be growing your team. And the other thing is you can't want it more for them than they want it for themselves. So, that's one thing that well,
we make that point again. That one's strong.
Well, I mean, you can't. I mean, I think we fall into that category sometimes of, you see the ability in somebody and you really want it for them, but quite candidly, they don't want it for themselves. And the one thing that Josh Allen, who's my director of sales, and myself, when we interview somebody, we talk about work ethic. That's one thing we can't teach anybody. We can teach them our systems. We can teach them, sales training, but the work ethic. This is a very, very simple business. It's not easy, but it's very, very simple business. And I think sometimes people get into this business with the false realization that, hey, I'm going to go to a model, I'm going to sit behind a desk and I'm going to make a lot of money. Well, those that are successful, they have that ability without having to have an advanced degree or anything, but they put the time and effort into it. They commit themselves to really to excellence and taking care of the customers. This is one thing I think I learned during my general brokerage days, that if you build a business, that you'll always have business. You'll always have people that you're going to be able to help. In new home sales, I think sometimes we lose track of that because, it's more transactional. We're doing this customer and then we're with them for 4 to 6 months. And in these days, 7 to 9 months, 7 to a year, whatever the case might be. And we're not developing those relationships. This is a people business. And that's what, kind of at the roots of it is what, we're looking for kind of in our sales team. And then quite honestly, the sales leaders have to understand that as well. That it's a people business, and your team, are people, and they have their own, I was going to say issues, but, things going on and that you've got to understand and, try to, again, foster positives and then understand, what challenges each individual might have.
Yeah, and you can train. I had a salesperson who was one of my top producers, and one of the things we sent her to training. We went out to Texas. We had this big rah-rah with the whole company, and it was a big publicly traded builder. So it was, it was great training. She came back. She tried to implement everything all at once. And one of the things I had a habit of just showing up at sales offices, and I would work. We had them set up for two. So I would sit in the other person whose day off it was, I would sit in their office and just work.
Sure.
And they were so used to me doing this that nobody cared that I was there, and they would just be themselves. Well, I had seen that her numbers were really starting to slip since we got back from this training, and it was very odd, and I could see she was getting really frustrated with it. And one of the things that we went through, and with me just sitting there and listening and not interrupting, just being, I realized what was happening. She was trying to implement everything all at once.
Yeah.
So she wanted it, and I wanted it for her, but I called her aside after I heard her do this a couple of times, and I said, let me give you permission to be you. Her name was Donna, and I'm like, Donna, you have permission to be you. She's like, I do. I'm like, that's the secret sauce right there. You're the secret sauce. Layer these things in and improve, but you got to be you. And if you don't know your sales team that well, if you're not on that, if you don't have that kind of rapport with them, it's going to be awfully hard to lead them and help them when something's wrong, because it may not be readily apparent to just anybody who had walked in what was going on. But I saw the difference because I'd seen, before the training and then after the training, immediately the difference in style and how nervous she was at trying to remember everything and get it just right.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be engaged with the team. You've got to be available. One of my pet peeves is when one of my sales team calls me on the weekend. Yes, I'm talking to you all, and you say, sorry to bother you. I'm like, guys, that's why I'm here. I mean, sales leadership is, and I've always said it to myself and to others that ask, it's more of a lifestyle. It's not a job. Okay. I don't come into the office, at 9 o'clock and clock out at 5 o'clock. I mean, it's whatever it is, 24/7. Obviously, to my wife's chagrin, the late calls in the evening, the calls when you're at a movie theater and you get up to take a deal, and see what you got to do. So it's being accessible. And I've heard, from other people, other sales professionals, sometimes getting in touch with their sales manager, because that's not a leader, is kind of like pulling teeth. You can't get them. I've even heard one time where they said, don't call me on the weekend. Guys, then this is not the role for you. You've got to be accessible to your team, because you have to think about it from this standpoint. It's kind of a reverse hierarchy. The most important person or people on your team is your sales team, your construction team, your customer care team, those individuals that interface with the customers face to face, because that's your company. That's what your customer, those are the people your customer interacts with. We get involved as support, okay, and we've got to be there. We've got to be able to answer the question, provide them all the information so that they can share that information. And, I know that my team's not calling me to say, Alan, how's your day? Are you having a good day? If they're trying to get in contact with me, they have a specific question that they need answers to, because they may have a customer right there. And as this market has been normalizing over the last several months, you better be there. Otherwise, your customer may not be, because they may go someplace else. It's the pandemic spoiled a lot of people during that period of time, because it was as close to, I'll just say, order taking as you could get in the markets that I've worked in. And I've worked in the DC market. I've worked in the Charlotte market. I've worked in Fort Myers, Tampa, Atlanta, and now back in Charlotte. Charlotte is a very competitive market, as are the other markets out there. And I think we're just getting back to assemble some normalcy, and we need to get our teams to understand the role that they play, or the crucial role they play in developing, kind of the value proposition for our particular brand, community, homes, etc.
Mm-hmm. And you made a good point about your sales team and being accessible to them. And I know you do this. Give your team the tools so that they have most of the answers. When they're calling you, it's that one-off. It's right. It's that exception where they need you. Because if they have to call you to sneeze, then you're not empowering your sales team. And you got to empower your sales team. You've got to give them the parameters, give them information so that they can take that information. And you have to trust them with that information.
Yeah, when
I trust them, you probably got the wrong team.
That's true. And when I started off, obviously I started off selling, and did relatively well for myself. And I used to tell then VP of sales, hey, you can come and visit me, but if I need you, I'm gonna call you. Otherwise, just leave me alone. If you want to come and, shoot the breeze, fine. But, I understand from our sales team, they're doing this, for themselves and their family to develop that lifestyle. And the company is the beneficiary of what they do. So obviously there's got to be a lot of give and take from that perspective. But if they're driven, they're going to do it in spite of what you do, or the hammer that you wield, or the attaboys that you give. Okay, they're going to do that because that's who they are. Okay, I'm not here to motivate anybody, and quite candidly, I'll say it this way: I'm not here to be everybody's friend. Okay, at the end of the day,
absolutely,
it's a matter of performance. I'm here to help you perform at the highest level that you possibly can, or more importantly, that you really want to perform. Okay, I'm not here to give you a kick in the butt, but I'm going to give you coaching. I'm going to give you feedback, and it's up to you whether you want to take it or not. It's just like sales training. We can give you sales training, but it's up to you to implement it. And and that's where the coaching comes in, as far as don't try to implement it all as one, as you were saying, because what got you to this place is your innate abilities. Now what we want to do is kind of sharpen the saw. We want you to become that much better, kind of one step at a time, and be able to impact, families. Because again, I mean, I got into this business because I enjoyed talking to people, meeting people, helping them with the largest single investment that everybody makes at any given time. I don't care if back then it was, yes, a $99,000 home or townhome, or it was, $1 million home. It's all relative based on where they are. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that and how important, this decision is. And quite candidly, the trust that they give to a member of your team or a member of our teams, to allow us to help guide them through this process.
It's so cool what we do. I mean, nowhere else do you really get to do that. And I know I say this and I say it sounds cheesy, but it's not cheesy. It's really very important. I always say hire rock stars and then help them to shine.
Yep.
So that, having those right people. We have a question in the Q&A. So it's a really good question, because I've had people who were motivated to perhaps come up from the sales ranks into sales management, and they're like, wait a minute, I'm going to take a cut in pay to do this. So if you're a really great rock star on that sales team, you probably are going to take a cut in pay.
Yeah.
So what would motivate anybody to do this crazy thing and go into leadership?
I think you've got to look long term. I mean, if your desire is to get into sales leadership, and not just become, kind of the position of sales manager, but aspire to become a vice president of sales and or marketing. You can't look at, okay, I'm making X now, I'm going to take, Y cut. But if you take a look at the larger picture, the longer term picture, that you'll be able to get back there. But more importantly, you'll be able to impact decisions that are made that are going to help the sales team perform at a higher level. Okay, because at a VP position, you're going to be more strategic, you're going to be more operational, you're going to be able to give them the tools from that standpoint. And again, as a salesperson, I was like, I'm on my island, leave me alone, let me do my thing, everything's good. As a sales leader, you've got a variety of islands out there, and you've got individuals that are out there on their own island. And what you want to make sure that they don't feel is that they're out there on their own island, stranded by themselves, being Gilligan and the professor, and asking for, and I probably dated myself, but that's okay. I'll say Tom Cruise.
Most of the people on this call know what Gilligan's Island is.
I know. So I'm going way back.
Or you and I are really dating ourselves.
But the thing is, you're there to support them. But it can be a tough transition going from a high-powered sales professional to the sales manager. One, because you're on psyche, you're taking a pay cut. I can guarantee you're taking a pay cut. But also you're dealing with, one day, these individuals were your peers. Now, okay, you're their boss, okay? And holding them accountable. And that's the key thing, is accountability. everybody's got to perform. And that's the way I look at it. It's a performance-oriented business. It's not personal. We're going to give you goals. We expect you to achieve those goals. They're not going to be crazy, lofty goals. They're going to be reachable goals based on kind of the business plan that the division put together. And you've got to hold your team accountable to be able to reach those goals. And, that can sometimes be difficult for some people making that transition. Sometimes it's easier to go to a different company and get your foot in the door, but sometimes it's hard to get your foot in the door to become a sales manager when they don't only know that you were a good salesperson at your existing company. So it's kind of a double-edged sword from that standpoint. So you've got to make that decision whether you're willing to take a step back and grow your career. I'll put it that way.
It's two different skill sets. So often we get builders who want to promote their best salesperson into the sales manager's role without really taking into consideration the skills. If you've got a salesperson who succeeds kind of in spite of themselves, maybe it's, sometimes it is price, product, position is where you are. Yeah. Right. Or you have but they're in reaction mode all the time. You've got to be very proactive and strategic in leadership. You also have to do paperwork, guys.
Yep.
Numbers don't lie. This is a metric driven business. And if you're not tracking the right metrics, you guys have heard me say it over and over and over again, you will not know how you're doing, because it's easy to justify, well, this month we didn't make our number. Well, you don't have just one bad month in sales. One bad month in sales, as Myers Barnes put it to me a long time ago, and it was that aha moment, is another bad month in starts and a really bad month in closing. So you just lost 3 months of productivity when you have one bad month in sales. So you can't afford to do that. You've got to have a plan to keep people on track so that sales pace is meeting the company goals. Inspect what you expect.
Yeah.
We often talk about that. And as a new sales manager, if you're being promoted into that role, all of a sudden that one is where it can get a little uncomfortable.
Well, and the other thing too, you got to walk the walk and talk the talk. Okay. I mean, inspect what you expect, but you also have to be willing to roll up your sleeves and do what you ask of your team to do. And it doesn't matter what it is, whether that's being out there on the weekend, talking to a customer, whatever it is. I mean, you've got to, again, it's sales leadership. You got to lead by example, period. If you're not going to be willing to do something, then you can't hold your team accountable to do something.
So you mean I need to understand my CRM?
You need to understand all the above. Yes, indeed. You can't become a successful sales leader if you don't know your respective CRM inside and outside. I mean, that's the one thing that I've always prided myself on and spent some extra time with, our corporate, IT people. I want the time to understand. You give me some one-on-one training so that I understand that. So that, quite candidly, if I needed to train somebody on my team on it, I could do that. I've got to have kind of the resident expert, and for me, that means it's me. The buck stops here, and if I can't hold myself accountable, I can't hold them accountable from that point.
Yeah, and to me, if it's not in the CRM, it didn't happen.
Oh,
so
yes.
There's a whole lot that goes along with that, including compensation. Whose lead is it?
Yep.
Just, I mean, I got to have carrot and stick to go with that.
That is the book, the Bible, whatever it is. Everything kind of sits there because that's the only consistent manner in which everybody can be held on the same accord. And I'll kind of go there too. I mean, you have whatever the number of team members you have on your sales team, everybody's on the same playing field. Although you may have different performing levels, you treat everybody the same. Okay. The worst thing you could do for a sales team is, pick favorites. All right. Because
make exceptions because somebody's hitting their sales numbers. No.
That's the quickest way to demolishing an effective team.
Yeah. You set the rules, just like the numbers are the numbers, you set the rules. And I will, since we kind of jumped ahead into that, I want to address one. I was an outsourced sales manager for a large private builder, a national private builder. And we had a team person who was consistently late, paperwork was a train wreck. It was, customer follow-up, the CRM, I mean, whatever you asked, but this person sold homes. She sold homes and then she dropped them like she was dropping a bomb, and everybody else scrambled and picked up the pieces afterwards, right? And I said, multiple times, I'm like, we've got to take corrective action here. There's got to be some discipline. There's got to be, now everybody else thinks it's okay to show up late because this person was showing up late. And you do manage to that lowest common denominator. And I kept hearing from the division president, I can't let this person go. They're my top producer. And I said, you watch. If you do this, the rest of your team will rise to the occasion, because right now they have been managing themselves to that lowest common denominator, and they weren't ready. They couldn't do that.
Right.
Plus, you shouldn't allow this. We did, and we actually produced 2 more top producers out of the same team in B locations. So, we brought those communities that we'd been struggling with for a while up to where those expectations were, right, in less desirable areas, just because we let that bad apple go, because one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch.
Very, very true. And again, I think the teams, there is that chatter, okay, that permeates,
absolutely.
Maybe right after a sales meeting or once an announcement's made. I mean, the phone, they're picking up the phone chain, so to speak. And again, you want to make sure that everybody, it's consistent across the board.
Yes. And when you hold people to that level, they know, you think your salespeople are not going to like it, but motivational accountability is actually quite possible because people like to know what to expect.
Right.
And when they know that and they know what the rules are, it frees them up to do what they do. It's pretty cool. So let's talk about some of the positive. We talked about a little bit of the kind of negative, but
sure,
I love to celebrate and reward right behavior. Mm-hmm. So how do you do that with your team? How do you celebrate and reward that right behavior?
I think there's just a number of things. I mean, obviously, during the pandemic, we were throttling sales, capping them. So really there wasn't per se a top producer during that period of time, but there was activities and things that they were doing, survey results that were coming in, where they were being mentioned. So you take a look at those highlights, those marks that you can really emphasize. Even feedback from within the own team, that the construction team says something, or not only a customer, but the customer care team. You look for those positives in the experience and how they've impacted our customer base, and you share that information. Or something that they're doing well, something that they put together, you share that with the team, and you kind of raise that level, and then they share some of the work that they've been doing as far as systems they put in place to help them manage their business better, so that you get more of that collaboration going on within the synergy within the team. And when you don't have the quote unquote top producer from standpoint, there's other ways to really keep people engaged and keep them motivated from that perspective.
Yeah, certainly I had a division leader one time say to me, well, they get paid and they get paid when they perform. So isn't that good enough? And I went, no, it really isn't, because this is a tough job. You hear no 9 times out of 10 for most, you get, as the late great Bill Herring used to say, you get up and you get dressed in your Sunday best. You go out there in a world that's going to tell you no 9 times out of 10. Right. Yeah. You got to deliver that quote bad news. Again, I don't believe in assigning whether something is good or bad, but it's just news. But you have to, in their mind, they're delivering bad news. They are our front line. So it certainly celebrates success as the numbers and the metrics. But again, rewarding that right behavior. When you see somebody going the extra mile, or even just consistently doing those right things that are going to pay off for them eventually, celebrate that and let them share in those, have a little moment in the spotlight.
And again, to your point, it doesn't have to be anything monumental, but just a small improvement. And maybe it's a quick phone call. Maybe it's a quick text. Hey, I noticed that this was happening, or your paperwork's getting better. Your sales administrator saying, man, I've seen this major turn in the quality of their paperwork. Just those little things go a long way from that perspective.
Say thank you.
Yep.
Thank you goes a really long way. Having an attitude of gratitude with your team really can make a world of difference.
Because we're only as good as our team. I don't care who you are. If you don't have to have superstars throughout your entire team, and typically you won't.
No, and sometimes you don't need them. Yeah.
No. But you just, as you said, appreciate who they are and make sure that you're always there.
Yes. Let's talk about the job description. Yeah, I think there's so much confusion. Again, sales leadership tend to be fixers. They fix things. So sometimes when we don't know where to put something, it can fall on the sales leader, or as a fixer, we take it upon ourselves to fix other problems.
That's your nature. That's our nature. Yes.
Yes. So let's talk about what do you think should be in the job description let's talk about someone who's maybe the general sales manager, or for the smaller builders, they may be the whole shebang.
Yeah, I think the first and foremost, stay out of the office. The office is the proverbial black hole. Okay. I think from a sales manager standpoint, yeah, there's certain meetings that you have to attend, but I think most divisions try to schedule them where it's maybe one day or one area of time. But sales happens out in the field. You do not want to lose touch with what your sales team is dealing with on a day-to-day basis. I mean, they've got to be able to confide in you. Sometimes, I guess, I don't want to say cry, but cry to you and say what challenges they're having, so that we can come together and figure out, okay, what challenges, are these real? Are these just because you've had 3 customers come in and say your price too high, that, hey, we're way too high? Is being able to discern what we need to do in order to be able to get to, to the next point. But spending quality time, not just a check-in, not driving through the community, I'm in, okay, and then not having a, as we talked about, a planned encounter. You have a specific agenda that you want to cover with this particular sales professional, and then action items when you leave, okay, that you can follow up on the next time you get back to them. It's got to just be very, very productive. And I think from a sales manager standpoint, you're out in the field. Okay. That's kind of the first level of leadership, being out there, FaceTime, letting them talk, letting them get some of the frustrations off, let them share some of the positives, the positive things that they've had from that perspective. I think that's the biggest thing. But then also just coaching, things that they need to do in order to do the fundamentals. I kind of liken it to when we talk about sales team every year, professional athletes, what do? They go to basic training. Make sure you've got the fundamentals in place. Those teams, they get to their respective championships, they're not the razzle dazzle. They just have the fundamentals down better than everybody else.
It's the blocking and the tackling.
That's
always
it.
blocking and tackling.
Regardless of what the market is, if you've got the fundamentals down and your team has those fundamentals down, then they won't, they'll take the arrows that come their way and they'll kind of bounce off, and they'll be able to go forward and continue to perform from that perspective. It is, the administrative side. And that was one thing that really I learned it from a salesperson. Yeah, I didn't like paperwork, but I learned that it was a necessary part of my job. And being able to make sure that every T was crossed, every I was dotted, to get, quite candidly, it was a bigger attaboy for me to have my sales administrator say, hey, paperwork's great, than my division president say, hey, nice number of sales for that particular month. Because you just took pride in not slowing down the train. Because I think sometimes sales members lose sight of how important this legal document that you had the customer sign, that basically is their home on paper. And that's how the rest of your division, your team, your purchasing team, your design team, your construction team, your closing team, all that's predicated upon what you did at the front end. And if Absolutely. It's messed up, then there's a lot of people that are involved in trying to straighten it out. And you're the one that started this mess, so to speak. So let's just make sure that you don't. get it done. So, training people up, I think from a sales manager role, that's key. Knowing your metrics, knowing what the goals are, understanding and thinking more, from an operational standpoint. Here with MI Homes, I look at, and I always had from a quarterly standpoint, giving people quarterly goals because the ebbs and flows of the business. It'd be great to say, hey, I want 3 sales, 3 sales, 3 sales from you.
Yeah, right.
At the end of the quarter or end of 90 days, and you said it earlier, 90 days, there's a lot of things that happen if you miss your sale, but with 90 days, you can also make up things. And I think sometimes our sales teams, if they have a very good month, then they're worried about their backlog. And I know this is something we're going to talk about, and they're not worried about the prospecting that they need to do. And you start getting those peaks and valleys, and you don't want that. You want to make sure that they stay focused on those 3 aspects of their business that, hey, I'm prospecting all the time. I'm taking care of my customers that are future by taking care of my customers that are my backlog. And I'm keeping this moving. And it's not just, I'm not going to fall short on any given particular month.
Time management, is key.
Oh, yeah.
Because you do it to fit all those aspects in. And if you can't time manage and time block, you can't expect your salespeople to time manage and time block too.
And that was something that I had to learn. I mean, with me, both from a sales standpoint and then getting into sales leadership, it was 24/7. And look, I learned that I don't have an S on my chest. I'm not Superman. I've got a life too. Some people probably say otherwise, but nonetheless, it is really a matter of being able to find balance. You've got to find where your balance point is. And, I always tell the team, look, give me 100%. I don't want 101. I don't want 102. I want 100%. When you're in the role, I want 100%. You also have to have the time to step away. And, with sales and new home sales, it is go, 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 go. And sometimes I've had to tell a couple of my team members, take some time off. You need to take this weekend to recharge. Because I think they're sometimes the last to realize that, okay, I noticed something going off, with you a little bit. Maybe I can't put my finger on what is specifically, but you're not who you are. Kind of as you indicated earlier with the salesperson, be you. Okay, well, they weren't being them. And because the environment was impacting them, they need to kind of step back, recharge, and then step back in and be ready to go, full bore.
Yeah. And if you don't have that connection with your sales team, you may miss those cues. So I went from a large national builder to one of the largest national builders. And in the first one, I had a budget to do my office, and like my office was this big grandiose space, and I had room, I had like a little area for coaching and for holding meetings and for doing all this stuff. And then I went to another one, and the larger builder, and I had a cubicle, and it was very crowded where we were, and there was a lot of noise. And I'm like, how am I supposed to get any work done here? And they're like, you're not. Get out and stay out.
Yeah.
Best advice I ever got. And I'm dating myself, but they're like, you have a BlackBerry. Remember the BlackBerries? Remember the crackberries we called them?
Yeah, the crackberries.
Yes, with the Nextel, where people could like zap you anywhere and like just start talking to you randomly. I hated those with the walkie-talkie feature on them. Yeah. And I had my laptop computer. What do you need? Get out and stay out. So if you're spending that time out in the field, you'll stop doing as much administrivia, and you're not around to be in the line of fire for the administrivia, which should probably go to somebody more appropriate anyway.
Right.
I had a senior VP who at one point when actually after I came back from maternity leave, and he's like, can you make copies of all this stuff? And I'm like, what? I'm like, I am more than happy to stand here and make copies if you want, but do you realize what you pay me? Wouldn't I be more effective doing this or doing my job?
Right.
And he had no idea, because he came in and I was on maternity leave. He had no idea what I did. So, whose job should it be is a question, and who can most effectively the closest person to the job should be the person touching it. Just because you're the sales leader doesn't necessarily mean you need to be the one doing it.
I mean, sometimes you got to learn how to delegate, and that's sometimes a tough thing, especially if you've been, a sales professional where you used to, hey, if it's going to happen, it's on me to get it done. Well, when you become a sales leader, you have extensions, hopefully, of you that need to get it done in their respective profit centers. And that's then what the focus needs to be. I mean, you got to remember that sales is the only part of our business that generates revenue. Everybody else spends it. So, if we don't sell, then we got bigger problems.
Exactly. That's where that ROI, what is the return on the investment? And you should ask yourself that before you take on any new project. What is the return on the investment? Is it going to generate more sales or more profitable sales?
Right.
If the answer is no, then it might not need to be done.
Sure.
This will come as a shock, but I run sales teams oftentimes remotely from across the country. And I will do that in 10 to 20 hours a week, depending on the size of the team. Yes, I said it, 10 to 20 hours a week. Can I get everything done that Alan does in a week? Absolutely not in 10 to 20 hours. It's not going to happen. But the stuff that's going to give them a return on investment, I have to be laser focused on, because we can't lose those results. And we either find somebody else to do those things, or in some cases, we determine they may not be that important.
Right.
A lot of it is truly administrivia, which, is exactly what it sounds. It's trivial. It's not going to make a hill of beans worth of difference at the end of the day. So you said a couple things too that you do. You have meetings on Tuesday, and then you do your sales meeting on Wednesday. So Tuesday is the meeting day.
Yeah. We do our sales meetings Wednesday mornings. Even through the pandemic, I've been a staunch proponent of, always having sales meetings, whether they were through Zoom, Microsoft Teams, or, during the pandemic, we certainly weren't meeting in person, but, we've been meeting in person for a while now. And I think it's information sharing. It's recognizing, accomplishments. It's recognizing things like birthdays, from that point. But making sure that the team comes together and gels from that standpoint, and raises, common concerns that may come up that you don't hear when you're just out there one-on-one in a community. So just having all the team come together, and I think that creates that cohesiveness that you're trying to forge within a team, and understanding that aspect of it.
And a sales meeting should be a team meeting, not a planned one-on-one.
Right.
And so often, we get that confused. We go around the room. Well, what did you do this week? And who are you working? And who are your prospects? That's a one-on-one. That is not a sales meeting. Sales meetings are for training, for going over policies, procedures, for celebrating those successes, for team building. That's what, and make them productive, or don't have them.
Exactly. And you don't want to make them too long,
No.
because after a while, the eyes start rolling in the back of people's heads. You want to make them fun a little bit, but you've got to make them informative. There's got to be a purpose behind, the reason that you're getting together, as opposed to I'm just having a meeting. There's got to be some purpose to it.
Right. And be transparent about that purpose. So, any other advice on that? I know we had some questions here. So somebody asked if companies would rather see a sheet of paper on the wall, like a degree, or would they prefer to see a track record?
Yeah, for me, I want to look at work ethic. Now, from a corporate standpoint, I can't control what the requirements are from a hiring practice. But, quite candidly, what I look for is drive, determination. Someone once told me, you're looking for somebody with PhDs. It's poor, hungry, and driven.
I like it.
You're looking for that inner spark that people have. And sometimes just giving someone an opportunity to get into this industry, that I've spent a lot of my life in, that's reward enough. I mean, I've had people in the past where they had been knocking on doors, and we had an opportunity to meet, and it was a good fit for, I felt, our sales team, our company, and they went on to flourish. But had they not been given that opportunity, then they wouldn't have been able to shine. So it's not about the degree, but it's about the individual. It's about what they bring to the table and the work ethic they have.
It's hard to break into this business. Most builders want to hire somebody with experience. I am not necessarily about that. I'd rather hire for attitude. And again, do they have those basic skill sets, and then train them to do it right, rather than passing around the same mediocre behavior, because usually the mediocre people are the ones who are leaving.
Yep.
That if they've got a backlog as a salesperson, and doing well, they're probably not going to leave the company. But even then, in the sales leadership position, it's tough. It's kind of tough. We do tend to promote from within. So, where you can, you see somebody, maybe have them start out by training, give them some opportunities to shine before they take on the role. Can they be a senior salesperson, for instance, and do well at that? And then you see if they have those kind of abilities.
Or even if they like it. I think people say that, yes, I want to be a sales leader, I want to be a sales manager, until you allow them to mentor somebody. And then they say, yeah, maybe not, but to your point, take it in, kind of a small increments to see, hey, do you really want to lead a team? Is this something that, at the end of the day, when you spent whatever number of hours with this one particular person, and maybe they did get it, maybe they didn't get it, but you've got to continue to go over it again just to make sure it resonates with them. Sometimes that's enough to say, yeah, you know what, I think I'm going to just stay in my own lane. I'm going to focus on what I do well. But for those that, say, hey, look, I really enjoyed that time. You've got to have that inner passion to, quite candidly, help somebody grow. And if you've got that, then you can have a successful career in sales leadership. If you're looking at it from, I don't want to say it, but I will, a selfish standpoint, it's just about me, then stay on your island. Be me on your island, and you'll be successful there.
Yeah, I want my weekends off is not a reason to become a sales manager.
I can't think, I may not be in the office, but my golfing partners, they look at me every time my phone rings, and it's just, they're used to it. They're like, okay, all right, what'd you do? Are you structuring something this time? Whatever. I mean, they start getting into negotiation. I said, you guys stay in your lane. I'm doing my business. So here.
Yeah. Let's talk about team building too. So, I think that is so important as you start to grow your team, that you grow your team in a cohesive unit, because our salespeople are often out on an island. They are. And we forget that. We're in the office, we have the backstory, we know what's happening, what the numbers are, where the push is coming from corporate, but the salespeople don't know that.
Sure.
And chaos will certainly fill a void. So if you have, and I've even had those sales managers who are like, oh, I don't want them to be a team. I want them to all be competitive and just going at it. And I'm like, that's, to me, that's not healthy either. I've always been about building up the team, because a rising tide does float all boats, right? So it's good to have other people. So what are some things you've done to create more of a team and that camaraderie?
I think sometimes just having kind of a social event, going to a ball game together, going to Top Golf together, bowling, but make it somewhat competitive. Salespeople by nature are competitive, make it teams. We're getting ready to go into a national sales event, and I've got a little competition. Yeah, I'm teasing you guys that are on right now that I'm not going to say exactly what it is. But, just from a competitive standpoint, but also, we here in the market, we introduce cross-selling. So it's competitive, but we're not going to tolerate cutthroat. At the end of the day, it's all about taking care of our customers. And with the market being as competitive as it is, and the dollars that we spend from a marketing perspective to drive traffic to respective communities, we want a customer to feel engaged with our sales team. And then if that sales member, really strikes up a good relationship, then that person, almost like general brokers, can help them in any of our communities. So we rolled that out not too long ago, and it's working out extremely well, because quite candidly, there would have probably been some sales transactions that we would not have gotten if we didn't do something like that. So it's a balance, Kimberly, as far as the competitive nature. It's not cutthroat. I don't want people on our team to worry about, somebody's going to stab them in the back, but because we're not going to tolerate it. If somebody becomes cutthroat, as I've said in the past, they're going to be able to take their excellence elsewhere. They're not going to be a member of our team.
They de-hire themselves.
Yep, that's it. I've had people, concerned about, well, did I do a good job? I said, look, you won't have to ask. You'll get a lot of warning if you're not kind of carrying your load. It won't sneak up on you, like something in the night. It's going to be over a period of time, and you're going to have opportunities to improve.
Yeah. I like to, when I run those kind of contests or those programs, I like to do things where the team has a goal and then individuals have an opportunity to excel beyond that. So there's a team goal. And then if the team meets that and other people, they get that extra sell, or they go that extra mile, or they get that extra customer service number, or they build referrals, whatever behavior I'm trying to reward. One of my favorites, I had a sales team. I was actually promoted from the sales person to their sales manager. And one of the contests that we did, I was still trying to earn the team's respect. It was, back before the run up, and we were a younger division. So we were trying to do some innovative things. We had a contest to go to Discovery Cove. Of course, I'm based out of Florida. Discovery Cove is run by SeaWorld. And we had a team goal in order, if everybody got their sales number for that month, then, or I'm pretty sure it was a month, then we all got to go to SeaWorld. We'd take a day. But for everybody who exceeded their individual goals by 1 or by 2, they got the extra spiff of being able to go and swim with the dolphins. It was like an extra thing. Yeah. Pictures from that day, priceless. I still have them on my wall here. It's one of those memories that was just, we had such a great time and a great day together. And it became part of the culture that we would do things like this, that the team would meet and then you'd have something above and beyond. So anytime you can let individuals shine, but also build up that team, I think that's really an important thing to do.
You mentioned something about respect. I think sometimes in sales leadership and or sales, I guess management, people want to be liked. Okay. And that's kind of what drives them.
We all want to be liked.
And so I say for anybody that's thinking about getting into sales management, you better get some thick skin, because there's going to be conversations where, it's not about being liked. It's about, really getting performance and the respect. I'd rather say somebody that, Alan was fair. I didn't agree with what he did, but it was a fair decision. And he treated everybody pretty much the same. It didn't matter where they were on the sales team. The minute you try to befriend somebody and, you show some preferential treatment, that's a killer. That's a killer. So, get some thick skin and understand that, you're not going to be Mr. or Mrs. Popular in every occasion.
That's a tough one, but yeah.
But you're going to do the right thing for the company that you work for.
Yeah. Last thought is sometimes we do have to be the heavy or the bad guy. And, I think it's important. I had the opportunity to coach somebody last week, and this person had to deliver some news about performance to one of her people. And I said, we don't coach people. We coach about behaviors. Always talk about the behavior. Right. And, it goes back to that inspect what you expect. Be very clear on your expectations. When those expectations aren't met, it shouldn't come as a surprise that they're not being met. And then, of course, enlist that person to how they can do better. If they don't want to do better, that's going to be pretty telling right away.
Yep, absolutely.
So focus on those behaviors, not the person, for sure. So any final thoughts, final questions? We're at the top of the hour here. And of course, we could go on about this topic all day long, but let's check our chat here and see what's going on. So love some Bill Herring. Yes, absolutely. So any questions that anybody has? Give you a second here to get that typed up. And of course, you can always reach out to either of us. Our contact information, as always, I'm going to send I'm going to send the recording out to you, and I'll also put our contact information in there. And I'll put some information too about the Lead from the Side Academy that I'm getting ready to start. So if anybody is interested in that, Alan, thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
So
Okay.
this was an incredible conversation, hopefully eye-opening for some. I know you had some members of your own team on there, so and active in the chat. So hopefully that helped them too.
Understood. Well, again, Kimberly, thanks for having me on. I mean, for those that are looking into get into sales leadership, it's a very rewarding aspect of our business. And you really can change not only customers' lives, but your sales team's lives as well.
You absolutely can. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. I've tried to leave this business. I get sucked back in, and this is where I'm supposed to be, and I get it. I love this aspect of the business and being able to affect the direction of the company and what is possible. So, and that's, to me, that's what sales leadership is all about. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody. Have a great day, and we will see you in a month or so on the next head-to-head.
Successful August. Yes, indeed.
All right.
Take care now. See you.
All right.